going on? It's me, Megan Holiday. I'm here today with Adam Granduciel of the War on Drugs. How's it going, man?
It's great. It's great. Good to be here with you.
It's so good to see you. You know what? The last time I saw you guys was actually when you played our Weenie Roast in 2018. Do you remember that at all?
Yeah, I remember. Yeah, the huge outdoor soccer stadium.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh man, I can't believe some people play like this is their gig. Like every day they roll up and they do another one of these massive stadiums. Yeah, that was a lot of fun.
That was so much fun. And it was so
Yeah.
cool to have you guys on that bill because, when A Deeper Understanding came out, that album like changed my life forever. So I'm so excited to talk to you today.
Oh,
And
thank you. Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
I just want to congratulate you on the new album. I Don't Live Here Anymore. It's like you guys are back and you've done it again. So before we sort of talk about the album, you guys are about to start your tour next week. So how does it feel just knowing it's coming up and you're going back to it?
I mean, yeah, I'm in Austin now because we're starting in a couple days, and yeah, I mean, it's really we've been excited for this since all the guys came out to LA to rehearse in July for the first time, and we started piecing the songs together to learn how to play them, and then they came out again in September and then again in November. And so we've just been moving towards this week forever. And I mean, we're so excited. We've never been this prepared, rehearsed. All the pieces are in place. I mean, the COVID thing, we're just trying to like stay a tight bubble and get through every show and play to, anyone that, everyone that comes is going to get a great show. And yeah, we're just we've never been this excited and anxious and hopeful for a tour before. So,
Yeah, totally.
we're
And you
ready.
guys, you made kind of the tough decision where you're like, you know what, we're just going to not have any opening bands this tour. And, just to keep everything as tight as possible. Does that mean that, people are going to be getting maybe like a little bit longer of a set from the War on Drugs?
Yeah, we're going to play at least probably 2 hours, and some of our fans will be like, oh, that's it, but we'll definitely we'll play for a long time. We have a lot of songs in our catalog, and yeah, it was unfortunate because we handpicked all those openers and we had a whole vision for how that tour was going to lay out, but we're a little like our immediate band, we need to look after a couple of our members, and so we just had to, if we wanted to be able to do every show for all of our fans in all these cities, we needed to just do what we needed to do as a band. And in 2009 we were supposed to do this huge tour in Europe with a band, and we basically landed in UK, and we'd been making plans for months, and then 20 minutes later the tour was canceled, and we were basically stranded in Europe, and it was really upsetting at the time, but later I realized that they needed to do what was best for their band, and that's just our situation. So we're excited, and we're going to make it up to all those guys. And even if we're just playing their music before we go on stage or something. So yeah.
Yeah. Well, yeah, that statement you put out kind of highlighting all those bands, I thought was like really thoughtful and really nice. And, we will get past this time and you'll be able to, kind of remake it, make it happen again.
Right. That's the thing. I mean, we hope to have a long touring history on this record. So we just want to get through one at a time. So
absolutely. So it's so funny. My friend Phil Peroni, who I've known from high school, puts on that Desert Days music festival.
Oh yeah, Phil. Yeah. Of course, yeah.
So you guys, that was obviously one of your first shows back. And you guys came together, rehearsed at Sir here in Los Angeles. Yep. And what was it like for you guys just to be back in a room together, sort of getting it together and playing that first gig back with the new album?
Yeah, I mean, that was when the first came out in July, and we started rehearsing for everything that was coming up. It was the first day was strange because we hadn't seen each other. You're trying to catch up as friends, and then also like no one had really played music with other people or played our touring gear and anything. And after the first week of rehearsals, we had finally like made it through. Like it started to feel like, okay, we're like getting our feet back, it started like that muscle memory was coming back. And by the time we played that Desert Days gig, We had done like a week of rehearsals leading up to it, and we rehearsed the set like 80 minutes, and we were like wiped out after we rehearsed it. We all went upstairs and like sat in the green room, and we were like, oh man, I was like, we forget that like when you're on tour every day for a year, 2 years, and then you take a year off and do it again, it's like, it's just like in you, you know, and you take off 3 years, and that 80 minutes is like a really intense 80 minutes. And we're used to playing for, you know, 2 hours, 2.5 hours. So that took some getting used to. We kind of took it for granted, I guess. But that Desert Days show was like, it was amazing. It was like the first show we played. The crowd was awesome. It was a beautiful night. Yeah, it was like, we were like, okay, this feels real. This feels like home. So
Yeah, hell
yeah,
yeah.
to step into like a venue next week and to do it for real, do our show, and where it's just going to be really special for us.
I know, and I'm so excited. You guys are going to be coming to LA at the Shrine on February 26th. Just so everybody knows that too. I'm so excited to see you guys again. So, you know, with the album I Don't Live Here Anymore coming together, you know, you wrote a lot of this before the pandemic even happened. But it's so crazy to me because I just feel like this entire album is so helpful and just, I don't know, I think making people feel seen. It's been described as, you know, the growing pains of modern adulthood, which I actually felt like really wrapped it up pretty good. So what can you say just as far as, you know, where was your head at when you were writing these songs? And if you want to talk about the title track a little bit, just about how that song together is, you know, it's amazing.
Yeah, a lot of them were kind of like the bones of the songs were written before the pandemic, and some of them were further along than others sonically. But I feel like we did a lot of the best work. I think the record kind of took on a whole new landscape in like October or November of 2020. Like me and Shawn had been working so much, and then March hit, and we kind of didn't really do anything for 5-6 months. And we tried to do stuff over the internet, like over email mixing, but it was like, I don't know, you know. And then we finally got back together in the same room at Sound City. And it was like 6 or 7 months of all that pent up kind of energy and all the stuff I was doing at home on these songs, like trying my best to like work on them in my little home studio, make sense of some of them. And it was like all that energy when we finally got back together in the same room to like work together in person, listening to the same speakers. And that's kind of when everything took on a whole new shape. And I think just everything felt more cinematic at that point. I think I had a better idea of the like what each song could be. And like, I was a little bit more, maybe because of the pandemic and, you know, we had done that Live Drugs record. I think I was a little bit more ambitious with what I wanted this one to sound and feel like. So we still made a lot of changes and shaped it, I think, pretty heavily with everything that we were all collectively feeling, you know, like anxiety and just like also a hopefulness about like what it means to just wanting to put something out into the world that was nice, you know? And like, as much as we were all kind of locked in our houses and dealing with this fear and everything, it was like, I want to make something great. You know, I want to like do the best, take it further than I thought I was going to 5 months ago. So the title track was one of those that we had before the pandemic. I knew it was going to be special because when the Lucius girls sang on it, it was kind of like it was like a last minute kind of addition. I had them over to Shawn's studio. They did some really beautiful pads on stuff. And then I told them, I was like, I haven't done my vocals yet, but here's what I might sing in the choruses, you know? So why don't you just sing these lines kind of like with this phrasing? And if I change the lyrics, then so be it, you know, and we'll figure it out later. But they're just such huge voices, you know, and they're so in tune with each other that when I went to do my vocals weeks later and I sang those lines in the chorus and they were behind me, it was like, whoa, like it was like really intense. And so I knew because I had that moment in the song, I was like, this is really special. This is unlike anything our band has kind of done. So Shawn and I just had a lot of fun sculpting the song to that song, you know, and kind of like you know, bringing in all the influences that we kind of heard in that music. And I really wanted to highlight the girls. I mean, it was really like the classic, like up until the last minute, it was like more girls, more girls. It was just like louder, louder, you know, wider, you know, everything. So that's like every song on the record. We just had a lot of fun. Like once we kind of saw what any song could sound like, me and Shawn, we were just like, we're pretty tunnel vision on like getting it there. And there wasn't really any one that was like difficult, like, or threw us for a loop. It was always kind of a nice, easy journey getting there. I think we're really comfortable working together, and he's so capable, and I love being in the studio. So kind of a really good match.
Yeah, well, I mean, I just feel like it flows so well together. You know, and there's like these really beautiful moments, like, you know, Rings Around My Father's Eyes, which is, you know, one of my personal favorites. And it's just you said cinematic when you were describing it earlier, and there's definitely just something about your music where I can't kind of help but make my own little movie of kind of what's going on in my mind.
Yeah. I think that's same for me too, like working on the songs. And that's always been with records I love. You know, you always have a time and place where you might have heard it, or like a color associated with that album for you, or a story, you know, like one image that you think about. And that's kind of how we go about making them. And that's cool to hear that, because that's what it's about, you know, like there's no set response for anything. It's just like, here's this thing, and you get to interpret it and live with it and let it evolve as you evolve, you know?
Yeah, seriously. So one of the last things I want to ask you about, just because I would imagine this to be such a massive moment, but, you know, obviously when you got to do the remix for the Rolling Stones, Scarlet, you know, their lost song that they did with Jimmy Page, and, you know, Mick Jagger loved it so much he wanted to have a chat with you. So I was just wondering if there's anything that you can like take away from that conversation that maybe you'll remember forever, or I don't know, just anything from that.
I mean, the whole thing was surreal. I mean, at first, when they asked me to do it, I didn't really think that it was like, I thought at that level, you think that it's just like an interlabel kind of like promotional thing, you know, like you never actually think that the band is going to hear it or even know. And maybe that's naive on my part, but I basically submitted something after after thinking about it for a couple months and working on it. And they're like, yeah, this sounds great. Like Mick loves it. And I was like, whoa, I guess it was obvious. I just didn't think that he would be as involved as he was. So when we chatted, it was just amazing. I mean, the guy, I mean, it's like beyond legend, you know what I mean? It's Mick Jagger. And we were just chatting about music, and it's the same thing when you watch that Beatles movie. It's like these guys are just in pursuit of the song and the sound their whole life, you know? I mean, this was in the pandemic. He was putting together this Goat's Head Soup reissue, and he was just he heard something in this remix, and he wanted to like make sure it was just like he thought, you know. He's like, let's tweak this a little bit. And he was just inspired to get it right, you know, and inspired to like make a few changes, and like, oh, I heard this new melody, I want to do this, and then I'll send it back to you. And it was just like, oh man, he's just still on the hunt, you know, like just trying to make the next song. And it was just so inspiring. And like, obviously, like to chat with him about it nonchalantly about, you know, and we had a laugh because I had felt bad that there was at some point they had said that Ginger Baker was the drummer on that from Cream. And so I was like, it turns out it wasn't, but that was kind of the lore. And so I was like, when he told me that it wasn't Ginger Baker, because he had heard the same rumor, I was like, oh, I felt so bad because I had replaced Ginger Baker with a Lindrum. And he laughed and I laughed. I was like, oh man, we just shared a laugh. Like, it's just like unbelievable. But I learned you learn so much from talking to somebody like that for 30 minutes, and just this like kind of endless pursuit of, you know, making a song, making art, whatever, making something that feels real to call it finished, and being able to explain things in a way where you get your point across. It was really, like, I'm really honored that I got to have that conversation and do the work. I mean, I listened to it recently. It was cool too, because Dave played the bass on it. And, you know, it was just in service of the song. I was like, Dave, like I have this random idea, like why don't try putting bass on this song? And he ended up, you know, getting to play bass on basically a Rolling Stones song. I mean, it's so cool. And that was a record we listened to all the time on tour in like 2010, 2011. That was a big van record. So pretty cool turn of events.
Like a true full circle moment, you know?
Definitely. Yeah, definitely.
And now, you know what, you guys, the War on Drugs, you're inspiring a lot of artists. You know, I don't know if you're aware of an artist in the UK. His name is Sam Fender, and he's like the biggest deal out there. And
I know Sam, yeah.
Yeah, you know Sam, yeah, and he loves you guys. And I just think it's so cool. Like now you guys are in that place where you're now inspiring, you know, more younger up and comers and stuff. And I just love how, I don't know, things just kind of get passed down magically. And
that's what it's all about. That's what it's always been about. So
hell yeah.
It's cool.
I just want to thank you so much for hanging out with me, for spending the time.
Yeah, thanks, Megan. Appreciate it.
So everyone knows the War on Drugs will be at the Shrine on February 26th. I Don't Live Here Anymore is the new album. And Adam Granduciel, thank you so much. This was so much fun.
Thanks, Megan. I appreciate it. Thank you.